Alright, what's up everybody? Welcome back to more 428 Shibuya Scramble. My name is Raven from the Sky. And let's continue. Alright, so Sawa's storyline. To save Maria. Let's do it. The rain won't let up. The sound is growing louder and louder inside my head. It is the sound of regret spattering against my heart. My emotions surge like a terrible storm within me. I never wished for this. Never expected my heart to be dragged so far beyond my control. We can't save Maria. We can't save Maria. The word stormed through Osawa's mind in a relentless cacophony. Now see, he called up images of the bodies from the human testing trials on his computer monitor. He couldn't help but imagine his daughter in the same gruesome state for just a few more hours. Maria would begin hemorrhaging blood and die just like the people in these pictures had. We can't save Maria. He couldn't shake the words or reality from his mind. Darn it. Darn it. Darn it. Osawa began pounding his fist fiercely on the desktop. Sir, what are you doing? Kajiwara tried to intervene, but he kept on pounding away. When he finally ceased, the pain and the repeated impacts lingered in his hands. My research was never about any sincere desire to help people, and now I'm paying the price for that. The one time it finally matters, I can't even save my own daughter. Mr. Osawa, Kajiwara set a hand on his shoulder. You can always blame yourself later, but for now think again good and hard. Is there really no other way to save Maria? Nothing else we could try? Osawa shook his head. The only means we had left was using Tanaka's password to unlock the doors. And now Tanaka is dead. There's no other way? Is there a possibility that Mr. Tanaka told someone else his password? This was something Osawa hadn't considered. What? He probably did, but he's not supposed to. Was there anyone Tanaka might have shared his password with? Only one person came to mind. Well, yes, there may be someone. Oh, it might be AI, huh? You're referring to AI, sir. Or I. Kajiwara cast his eyes down. You figured that out then? Yes. Back during the commotion over that listening device. A necktie clip isn't typically the sort of present one gives to one's husband's co-worker. And yet, although some might consider it somewhat inappropriate, Mr. Tanaka was wearing it as if it were a matter of course, which implies something about their relationship. Kajiwara's voice trailed off. He coughed apologetically and tried again. I realize it's an awkward situation, sir, but please check with your wife. Even if I does happen to know the password, that does us no good if Maria gets quarantined someplace we can't reach her. I understand, Mr. Osawa. I'll bring Maria to you then. I'll do everything in my power to make that happen. The detective then produced a bunch of bananas from his pocket. How many bananas does he have? These are all left over. You're more than welcome to them, sir. Despite his gentle smile, the rest of his face was firm with resolve. You said you didn't care whether other people understood you, didn't you, Mr. Osawa? Osawa nodded guardedly. At the risk of being presumptuous, sir, I understand you, Kajiwara said. I used to be quite the workaholic myself. You're just like me. In another occasion, Kajiwara was shocked to run into a man who looked just like him. The fellow was a stylist at a hair salon. Kajiwara visits on occasion. He let out a gasp of surprise of his own upon seeing the detective. Kajiwara felt a particular connection and was expecting to go to the salon regularly, but when the stylist asked what he did for a living and Kajiwara answered honestly that he was a detective, the other man's face went pale and he bolted out of the building. Kajiwara never saw the man again after that. Calling yourself innocent, huh? How modest of you. Osawa let out a sardonic chuckle, and after a moment, Kajiwara joined in. The next time I see you, Mr. Osawa, I'll have Maria with me. The detective gave a slight bow, then left the study, a look of determination on his face. Osawa watched him go with admiration no matter what trouble arose. The man always looked for something he could do. He really was a fellow who knew how to hang tough. Compared to that, Osawa couldn't even articulate his own self-disgust. And asking Ai about the password would also mean inquiring into her relationship with Tanaka. The prospect was daunting. Venturing into the emotional territory of another person was his weakest suit. He left his study, but somehow found himself making his way to Maria's room. Not Ai's. He realized that he hadn't been into his daughter's room since a certain rainy day years before. Now he stepped quietly inside and saw Maria's world laid out before him. A small photo was set atop her neat and tidy desk. It was a close-up of someone's hands doing a cat's cradle. Whose hands were they? From the skin tone, they didn't appear to be Maria's. Several more photographs were pinned to a corkboard that hung on the wall. There were snapshots of people and townscapes from the Middle East. One glance at them, and Osawa felt like he was back there for a moment. The images weren't necessarily aesthetically pleasing, but they all looked like they'd been taken by a professional. When he spotted the last photo on the corkboard, however, he was certain that Maria had taken them all. The last picture was of Osawa himself. He was facing the camera, holding some luggage and flashing an awkward smile. It was a comical, affectionate image. He'd never known photography was one of his daughter's hobbies. No, this went beyond a mere hobby. Did she perhaps aspire to be a professional photographer one day? She certainly had the aptitude for it, from the look of things. Maria, a photographer. As he mulled the idea over, Osawa felt his chest tighten. Right now, it looked like Maria's hopes and dreams were about to be snuffed out. Her future consisted of bleeding to death a few short hours from now. Osawa stared vacantly out the window. The view from Maria's room remained unchanged from so long ago. Again, that rain had crept back into his mind. On that day, Osawa was dealing with some pressing business from work. He'd ensconced himself in his study, wrestling with some paperwork, when Hitomi barged in, looking distraught. Maria's gone. Sensing that Hitomi was legitimately alarmed, Osawa hurried to Maria's room. He found a letter sheet left atop her writing desk. Yeah, you only care. I think we've already seen this one, right? And he read that letter. He always going, and she ran away, but she ended up coming back. A few hours earlier, he canceled their weekend trip to the amusement park. He just wasn't going to be able to get his work done in time. Hitomi had resigned herself readily enough, but Maria just couldn't accept it. She'd been looking forward to it for so long. She railed at him. How many times now had he broken one of his promises to her? Hitomi understands why we can't go, so why can't you do the same? The cold rebuke had ended her complaining, but it was clear she still didn't accept the situation. Now, Hitomi helped him look around, but they found nothing missing from Maria's room. Despite her assertion that she was running away then, it seemed like there was no point in being overly concerned. Maybe she's at the park she always goes to. Hitomi looked worried. The park was roughly a 25-minute walk from the house. It would only take about an hour for Osawa to go get her and bring her home. But an hour was more than he could afford to spare right now. Dad, I think she's waiting for you to go after her. Osawa didn't need Hitomi to tell him that. He knew it well enough. That's what galled him so much about the situation. Why did she have to pull something like this precisely when his work was at his busiest? He'd done everything he could as a father since his wife had passed away. Why couldn't his daughter see that? It's all right. Your sister will come back. The rain was coming down pretty hard outside the window. Do you think she brought an umbrella? Hitomi asked anxiously. I don't know. But with the rain like this, she'll come back home soon enough. He spoke the words for himself as much as for Hitomi. And he headed back to his study and got back to work. Several hours went by and still Maria did not return. The rain had gotten even more intense, to the point where Osawa could hear it in his study. He was so concerned about his missing girl that he couldn't focus on his work, but he stubbornly refused to give in and go search for her. Several more hours passed. At last, Maria appeared at the front door, soaking wet. Osawa met her silently in the entryway. Wet strands of hair clung to the girl's forehead as she looked up at her father with a bitter glare. You don't care what happens to me, do you? Immediately, Osawa smacked her across the cheek with the flat of his hand. It was the first time in his life he'd ever struck anyone. He hadn't known such a violent impulse could exist inside him. Saw this already. Maria stood there, her hand pressed to her cheek. Tears welled up in her eyes. She began to tremble. On her lip was a small bead of blood. How could I do such a thing? Clenched his shameful hand into a fist, and in that moment, he was afraid of Maria. Afraid that his daughter could bring such raw emotion out of him and make him do something so thoughtless. But even more, he was afraid of how stunted he was as a human being. Was someone like him really fit to be a parent? What kind of future could Maria and Hitomi hope for with a father like him? That was why he married AI, or I, as Makino had proposed. Having a mother, he decided would help keep his family together despite their sad excuse for a father. But in doing so, Osawa had dug a psychological ditch between himself and his daughters. A deep ditch so that he could keep his daughters from being hurt. So that he wouldn't hurt himself. Now, Osawa was staring across that ditch, wondering if it was too wide to leap. He thought back to his early exchange with Kajiwara. If you get angry, you show it. If you get sad, you show it. It's human nature to let other people know how we're feeling after all. But what if doing that hurts the other person? That's when you apologize, sir. Yes, that was right. He needed to apologize to Maria for what he'd done that day. Still wasn't too late. It's never too late. When it comes to family, there is no such thing as game over. He recalled Pretty Honey's words. He needed to apologize to Maria, and so he needed to ask I for that password. Osawa was going to have a face-to-face. Was going to have to face his wife. Keep out. Osawa's phone rang, and Minokawa's phone number popped up on the LCD display. The reporter must have finished looking into the matter Osawa had asked about. Mr. Osawa? Sorry to keep you waiting. How'd it go? Well, I looked into the background of that story you asked about, and I learned who it was your wife was dating. Who was it? Osawa asked immediately. There was a brief pause. Mamoru Tanaka. I see. Finally, he had proof positive of a relationship between I and Tanaka. Now more than ever, it was no time to waver. No matter how painful the reality was, it was also true that if they hadn't been dating, there would probably be no way of saving Maria. So, Minokawa said, what is this big thing about disrupting the power balance of the world all about? There's something I need to take care of on my end first. Once I'm finished, I'll tell you everything. Yeah, that's fine. Things are pretty hectic on my end right now anyway. Osawa had expected Minokawa to put up more of a fight. He figured a reporter for 4-star General Gossip would be a bit more persistent. Oh, by the way, there was one other thing I wanted to tell you, Mr. Osawa. Osawa could practically sense the finger pointing his way from the other end of the line. Don't be too angry with your wife. All too often in this world, people let their anger get in the way of solving their problems. You may have a point. Osawa let out a weary chuckle. All right, then. I'll call you back later. Osawa found Ai standing by herself in the yard. She kept her back to him as he approached. May I have a moment? He asked quietly. What? Still, she didn't bother to turn around. There's something important I need to talk to you about. I'm not in the mood right now. Please, I realize you're upset about Tanaka's death, but at the mention of Tanaka's name, I slowly shook her head. Don't. Just tell me what you want. Hurry up and get to the point. Osawa tried to move closer to her, but she pointedly kept her distance. This was no time to mince words. Did Tanaka give you his password? There's something Osawa needed to hear from himself before this went any further. Were you in love with Tanaka? Oh, shoot. Both of these are... I don't think... Because, see, when I got the bad ending, I got the achievement that you've found all bad endings in the 1700 block. So I don't... Either one, right? Wouldn't be I don't think would be a bad choice. This was no time to mince words. Did Tanaka give you his password? His password? For the electronic lock on the lab, I need it in order to get to the antiviral out. I turned to face him at last. To get it out? What are you thinking? That belongs to the company. I just need one dose to save Maria. Please, if you know, please tell me. I don't know it. Aya's voice was barely a whisper. Osawa looked his wife right in the eye. You're telling the truth? I am. I see. And do you have any idea what number he might have used for the password? Aya shook her head silently, then turned her back to her husband once more. Even if I didn't know, she said, I wouldn't tell you. Oh. Why not? Don't you get it? Aya's words came out as a strangled rasp. Do you even know why I'm with you? She snapped. You really have no idea how much you're worth, do you? The value of one's woman's life versus the potential profits your research would bring in. There's no comparing the two. If it meant that Okoshi Pharmaceutical could monopolize your talents, then what did it even matter what I wanted for myself? There was something akin to desperation in Aya's words. And so you sent me those threatening emails too. What? I looked at him in shock. He knew he guessed correctly. You would go that far just to keep me tied to your father's business? That's right, I would. Ai bit down on her lip hard. But what would you even know? How about how I feel? I'm sorry. Don't apologize. I'm not the victim here. You say that, but isn't it because of me that you and Tanaka weren't able to stay together? AI began to tremble. Her secret was out. When did you figure it out? She asked. Earlier today. That tie clip. Right. Not the sort of gift one gives to a husband's coworker, is it? Aya's smile was bitter with self-deprecation. Osawa couldn't help pity her. Even Tanaka must have suspected that she placed the company's profit above all else if she'd go to such lengths to protect it. It was like she'd given up her entire life just for that. Please, don't mess my life up any more than you already have. Aya's words were only a faint murmur, but Osawa felt the rejection they carried with agonizing clarity. Tanaka hadn't given AI his password. Osawa's last chance had gone up in smoke. He let out a long, shaky breath and shut his eyes tight. Was it true? Was there nothing more he could do? Alright guys, thanks for watching. My name is Raven from the Sky. If you enjoyed the episode, drop a like and subscribe to the channel and series grow. Take care and I'll catch you guys in the next episode. Peace.